My name is Mando, got my name on the door. Black Peterbuilt 389, growling down the floor. Detroit 60 series, chrome burning clean. Rolling heavy loads like a money machine. Stacking up miles, stacking up cash. Thumb on the wheel, watch the whole world flash. I don't slow down, I don't lose sleep. Big money coming in and coming deep. Mando, rolling, Mando, rolling. Black truck, going, make big rolling. Big money, trucking, none of what he trucking. Don't know what to do and it keep on coming. Fuel in the tank and pride in my chest. Every stop I make, I did it best. Chrome on the mirror, chrome on the smile. Paid for the whole run, 1 hard mile at a time. Stacking up miles, stacking up cash. Thumb on the wheel, watch the whole world flash. I don't slow down, I don't lose sleep. Big money coming in and coming deep. Mando, rolling, Mando, rolling. Black truck, blowing, making, rolling. Big money, trucking, big money trucking. Don't know what to do and it keep on coming. Mando. Pull it back on with the weight all gone. Hit it engine talk while the day's still young. If the road gets long, I just lean right in. Black Peterbilt shining, I'm back again. Mando, rolling, Mando, rolling. Black truck, going, I keep rolling. Big money, trucking, big money trucking. Don't know what to do and it keep on coming. Mando, rolling, Mando, rolling. Black truck, going, I keep rolling. Big money, trucking, big money trucking. Don't know what to do and it keep on coming. Yeah. Yeah. My name is Mando, Black Peterbilt 389 glider. Chrome on the nose, Detroit diesel 60 series purring. Heavy oversized, long distance all night. Tied down right, I don't do it halfway. Big blow, long roll, wide turns, slow roll, cash stacks, up every mile I go. Mando, Mando, roll that chrome. Mando, Mando, bring it home. Oversized shine money in the bag. Mando, 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 I don't brag, I just drag. State lines blur when the trailer's tall. Pilot cars out front and I answer the call. Fuel stop, smile, then I'm back on the rail. Black brick gleam, never once to fail. Big low, long roll, wide turns, slow roll, air stacks, up every mile I go. Mando, Mando, roll that chrome. Mando, Mando, bring it home. Oversized shine money in the bag. Mando, 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 I don't brag, I just drag. From dusk to dawn, I keep it clean. Heavy work in a heavy machine. Call my name when the load is mean. Man, Duke in black like a road-bound cat. Put it down, Mando, Mando, roll that chrome. Mando, Mando, bring it home. Oversized shine money in the bag. Mando, 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 I don't brag, I just drag.
Go straight. chance to sample local America, the country their grandparents would know, to see the petrified forest, meteor crater, ride a steam train, or climb down a cave like the Grand Canyon Caverns north of Seligman, Arizona, on the longest stretch where 66 separates from the interstate.
Welcome to the Grand Canyon Caverns. My name is Bill Jackson. We're going to take a 3.5-mile walk with you.
We are coming from the north of Germany. Today, I see road, the famous old road. I said to my wife, we must go the road 66. You all ready?
West of the caverns, travelers pass through the Wallaby Reservation in Peach Springs. Few realize this is the site of Route 66's own Trail of Tears.
Keep right. After 15 yards, turn right. Turn right.
Nancy Miagame is the tribal historian of the Wallaby. Before the Civil War, surveyors for the railroad passed through here. Then the U.S. Army arrived and removed the Wallaby.
We took them all down there in 1875. By 76, they couldn't take it anymore, because there were a lot of people. So they all escaped that area. The ranchers, everybody moved in. They started taking the springs. We tried to hang on, but it was too much. The disease killed a lot of us.
Later declared this removal illegal, a high-handed endeavor to wrest from these Indians lands which Congress had never declared for them. Mojave County supervisors declared the land vacant, inviting Christians to move in. Like the Chinese, they shipped the labor to build the The rails and roads went forward. California, promised land, lay over the water. Beyond that, the Pacific. Immigrants moved from the end of the mountains toward the sea. They could almost smell the orange, as in this excerpt from John Ford's Maps of America.
Keep left.
But first, there was a terrible hot stretch to cross. The Mojave, the great American desert. Many travelers didn't make it past the pounding heat and distrust of strangers.
Keep right. After 15 yards, exit right ahead. Exit right ahead.
California is the last state going west on Route 66. We travel from the great Colorado River to the Pacific Ocean, from tiny reservations to skyscrapers. In the beginning, treacherous, even deadly. The Mojave, Chippewa, the first tribe to move out of this arid landscape. Everyone else should take heed, as environmental writer Edward Abbey wrote in Desert Solitude. It has been said, and true, that everything is
Keep
either
right.
states and
After
states or
15
states.
yards, exit right ahead. After 100 yards, turn right. Turn right.
The first town in California was Zeemods, named after the sharp, black mountains which rasp the sky. Nature is not free. Their sandblasted small town. To buy some cold cuts down at the Booker County. And this little girl walked over and looked
Turn
at me,
right.
and she looked up at Mom and asked her mom, said, Mom, is that her name? And she got very embarrassed. Irvin eventually received his BA and MA from UCLA, but Route 66 in the desert called to him. For peace of mind and for health reasons, he bought that country store in Goffs. There's not a day passed by somebody come up to the counter and ask me, how the hell did you wind up way out here? There's something very American in his optimism, unbroken by hardship, wind, or the all-powerful sun. Yet his visitors come from far away. The most of the customers come by Goffs today come from Germany, from Australia, England, France, and Switzerland. These people, they come by and travel the mother road. They know more about the mother road than people here, you know, in America, because they have a big love for it over these foreign countries. In the 1920s, Route 66 was planks laid across shifting sand. Before entering California, travelers had to pass agricultural inspectors, immigration checks, even a branch office of the Los
After
Angeles Police
100
Department
yards, turn
dedicated
right.
to remind
Turn right.
people that California might be a garden of Eden, but not everybody was welcome there. Kathleen, the University of New Mexico.
Poor people were discriminated against along the way, especially at the California state border. Usually they would pull them aside and there would be questions asked that they were not supposed to ask, signs saying that you're not supposed to come in unless you have so much money, and of course all of that was illegal. The class implications of Route 66 is not something that most people talk about.
You're listening to Across the Tracks, a Route 66 story. We'll return in a minute.
The Helmrich Center for American Research at 1400 North Gilcrease Museum Road in Tulsa is pleased to announce the debut of a new exhibition, Indigenous Independence, America at 250. This exhibition will invite visitors to reflect upon the centrality of Native peoples to the development of the United States as we know it today. The show will be on view at the Helmrich Center from June 15th through August 7th. More information on this exhibition at gilcrease.org.
I'm John Wilson. Join me this week for Swing on This. Bob Wilkins, Texas Playboy, start us off with a Stephen Foster classic. And then we've got some Oklahoma blues from Patty Page, some Oklahoma City blues, Jimmy Wayne. That and much more on Swing on This Saturday night at 7 p.m. live on Public Radio Tulsa. The nearest city was Barstow, a railroad terminus 200 miles west. There, the elevation rises to 2,000 feet, making the town only very hot, not scorching. It was a long drive, especially if you took the wrong road. I'm on the wrong road. I'm on the wrong road, baby. Yeah, it seems to me I'm traveling too, traveling on the wrong road home. In the old days, crossing the desert meant water bags and snakebite kits. But things are changing in the high desert. The booming economy of Southern California and its superhighways has finally caught up with the Eastern Mojave. Many of the miners and railroad workers were from early Chinese settlements in the Mojave, which date back at least 125 years. The Han family have been serving pork-fried rice on Route 66 for half a century. Second-generation manager Alvin Han remembers growing up Asian in Victorville, once a center for many Chinese railroad workers.
We started learning to work in a restaurant when we were 6 or 7 years old, washing dishes, pressing tables. This is a family business. Route 66 went right through the middle of Victorville. The restaurant we had on the end of 7th and D was the only restaurant in town. We didn't think of ourselves being white, black, or Chinese. We just thought of us just being a part of Victorville.
Victorville is also the site of California's Route 66 Museum, with a shield painted right on the road outside because so many 66 signs were taken down by visitors and collectors. Chip Kirk, curator, knows the 66 travel.
The road has a heart, it has a core, it has a soul, and that soul reaches you. And these people that travel Route 66 and love Route 66 are a different breed of people. They are heartwarm, they're caring, they're soul-searching, they're looking for what used to be, because then you made of the road whatever filled your longing.
Down the hill is San Bernardino, one of the early railroad towns in Southern California. Today, it hosts the largest Route 66 event in the country, the Route 66 Rendezvous. The Rendezvous hosts one of America's largest collection of classic cars, of the sort once driven on Route 66. Today, however, those 1957 Bel Airs are worth more than a house. For 3 days, the city is given over to this orgy of cargo, with cars parading, cruising, and even spitting fire in the air. On the other side of the counters, selling food, the visitor meets those who can't afford the high-priced housing of San Bernardino, seat of the largest county in the U.S.
Trying to raise money for basketball. It's a lot more people up here. Montana's all dusty and dirty and hot. When I seen all the old cars I've never seen before, so then I knew I'm on Route 66.
Toda la familia vende comida. This is a tradition for everybody here. So we want to go with the tradition.
Plenty of nice looking cars. Yeah, I have a 66 Chevy Caprice at home, Needs some work before I can get it here, but it'll be here one day.
Well, farewell to the great hazy sky. Lights all the mountains so farewell to them all standing by. And San Bernardino wall.
The Mormons settled this ominous country and abandoned it. But by the time sleep in a wigwam, get more for your wampum. Past the Fontana Drag City and the Fontana Church of the Nazarene and pit stop Go-Go.
San Bernardino is an alien place, in the words of Joan Didion. Not the coastal California of subtropical twilights and warm westerlies off the Pacific, but harsher, haunted by the Mojave just beyond the mountains. The wind pushes us west, just as the LA basin changes. Now it's a land of malls, communities of pseudo-Spanish developments as far as the eye can see. Route 66 Dr. Peter Friedman is a rocket scientist.
Well, it's certainly plausible that it could happen within a century. Route 66 between the Song and
ended have a future. People remember when their bit of Route 66 was shut down, the way some people remember where they were when JFK was assassinated. It happened to a cafe owner in Weatherford, Oklahoma. Unique enough.
We both said, why don't we do a show about two guys riding and let us rediscover the United States through their eyes. Route 66 somehow was symbolic of the highways of our nation, symbolic of the fact that young people were kind of raised in automotive society.
Which way was you heading when you come in here? Biloxi. Mustering season. A friend of mine's got a lugger. He needs the help, we need the money.
Don't lie to me, boy. You come in here in a shiny new car. That don't go with no poor mouth.
My father gave me that car, mister, just before he died. It's the only thing I've got left.
You don't have to explain anything to him.
How else do we get out of here?
Who are you fellas? I don't know what you're looking for, but you shouldn't have come to guard to find it.
Looking? Who's looking? Like I say, you live it the way you feel it. It moves, you go with it. I've been looking ever since I can remember. Did you ever hear St. Francis home found his way up? That's what I remember. And Todd, he's looking too. Get it made. Yeah, prep school and just like
soda fountain in Arizona.
Good times, bad times, troubled times, new beginning, heartache. The things they did in that TV series were the things that happened on 66.
God bless. Actually, my family was one of the first families in Cheyenne community on television. So that was one of the programs that literally, as kids flocked around to see all these cool guys, you know, these adventures in the
Danish Prime Minister Keir Starmer says he will fight to stay in office. He's expecting a challenge from inside his own party from Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester, who won a seat in Parliament in a special election yesterday. Starmer said today that he will not walk away and will run.
rwjf.org.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Topeka Coffee Roasters, a farm-direct coffee company committed to a sustainable and ethical coffee future. From their farms in El Salvador to their cafes in Tulsa. More about their mission and roasted-to-order coffee at topekacoffee.com.
This is Fresh Air. I'm David Freeman. Today is Juneteenth, named for the day in 1865 when enslaved people of African descent in Galveston, Texas, finally learned of their freedom from the system of slavery, effectively ending slavery in this country. We're going to listen to Tom Mosley's 2024 interview with Justine Hill Edwards about the story of a bank established in 1865 for formerly enslaved people. Here's Tom.
In July of 1874, waves of Africans rushed to their local branches
At 100 yard, turn right. Turn right.
Savings and Trust Company, a bank for newly emancipated Black Americans, was abruptly shutting down. Patrons and bank
At
branches throughout the
100
country
yard.
tell the story of a Houston branch of the bank from 1866. Someone documented all of the murders and brutal beatings that were happening, and basically how freed people were afraid of retribution for any number of things from white perpetrators. It's always remarkable when we see documentation like this because, you know, it was pre-everything. We're just talking about things being written down. Where was this document? Who was this person writing to from the Freedmen's Bank?
Sure. There is a great kind of digest of sources. It's called the Records of Murders and Outrages. And when we talk about the violence of Reconstruction, you can go to these records and read about the sheer scale and the sheer severity of violence against African Americans. I think it's apt to call it white terrorism. And so there is this compendium of records composed by Freedmen's Bank and Freedmen's Bureau officials. And it details the fact that in some places like Houston, for example, one of the reasons why the Houston branch was closed was that Americans began to
This is Fresh Air. Let's get back to Tanya Mosley's 2024 interview with Justine Hill Edwards. Her book looks at the years immediately after the Civil War, when tens of thousands of formerly enslaved people deposited millions of dollars into the Freedmen's Bank, only to experience that bank's collapse 9 years later.
All right, now let's get into the mismanagement and ultimate demise of the bank. Take us to March of 1870. Freedmen's total deposits at the time, according to your book, equaled out to about $12 million. That's about $292 million in today's money. How did the idea come about to loan out the money to white businessmen and investors?
Well, the bank was incredibly successful in its first few years. African Americans were depositing hundreds of thousands and then millions of dollars into their bank accounts. But in 1867, John Alvord, who at that time was working with the bank as one of the administrators, he convinced other trustees that it would be a great idea to move the bank's main office from New York City to Washington, D.C. And at the same time, while he was encouraging the trustees to embrace this idea, he invited a group of bankers onto the board that would dramatically shape its history, led by banker Henry Cook, the brother of Jay Cook, who founded Jay Cook and Company, the nation's first investment bank. He was invited onto the board and accepted a board appointment and more. He accepted the chairmanship of the bank's financial committee, the committee who decided what to do with the bank's deposits in terms of investments. He brought with him two of his colleagues who worked at the Washington, D.C. branch of Jay Cook and Company, First National Bank. And these three men decided to kind of shift the bank's investment strategy. And so in 1869, Cook embarks on a lobbying campaign to members of Congress, many of whom were his friends. And he convinced them to support a bill, an amendment, to change the bank's charter to allow the bank to transition from being just a simple savings bank to essentially a commercial bank, which meant that the bank could then make loans and specifically make business loans. And so the members of Congress who were kind of on the bank's side or on Cook's side decided to approve the amendment. And so in 1870, the bank started to legally make loans, and that would dramatically change the ways that the bank's investment portfolio would kind of shake out, but it also shifted the bank's major foundational goal, which was to support the economic aspirations of newly freed African Americans.
Right, and a lot of the loans went to real estate ventures, which is ironic because owning land and property was a major goal for many of the formerly enslaved and many people who had invested their money in this bank.
Absolutely. The bank started to make hundreds of thousands and then millions of dollars in loans to businessmen, even to politicians in and around D.C. To buy land, to buy property, and to make those
speaking to Tanya Mosley in 2024. More of their conversation after a break. And jazz historian Kevin Whitehead has an appreciation of South African jazz pianist and composer Abdullah Ibrahim, who died Monday at the age of 91. We'll listen to an archive interview with him as well. I'm David Bianculli, and this is Fresh Air.
The Neubauer Family Foundation supports HYY's Fresh Air and its commitment to sharing ideas and encouraging meaningful conversation. Support for NPR comes from this station and from DuckDuckGo, who believes that AI is hard to avoid right now. That's why they made a version of their private search engine without AI. Learn more at duckduckgo.com. And from Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026. Dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses win, locally and globally. More at bankofamerica.com/gamechangers.
World Stage Theater Company closes their timeless and relevant story season with a dramatization of the Harper Lee classic To Kill a Mockingbird. Told through the eyes of Scout Finch, this classic story follows her father Atticus as he defends a man accused of a crime in a town divided by prejudice. To Kill a Mockingbird runs June 19th through the 28th at the Liddy Dunges Theater at the Tulsa Performing Arts Center. Information on tickets at tulsapac.com.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Nine Funeral and Cremation, providing sensible, respectful cremation and memorial service options for over 85 years. Nine Funeral and Cremation, 918-742-5556 or NINDE.com.
A listener-supported service of the University of Tulsa, Public Radio 89.5, KWGS HD1, Tulsa.
This is Fresh Air. I'm David Bianculli. Let's get back to Tanya Mosley's 2024 interview with historian Justine Hill Edwards about Freedmen's Bank, created in 1865 for newly emancipated Black Americans. Tens of thousands of them deposited millions of dollars into the bank, only to experience its collapse 9 years later. Frederick Douglass, the most famous African American at that time, was brought in to save the bank.
What did he do to try to save the bank, though? Because really, even after finding out all of that information, initially he wasn't telling people to, hey, pull out your money. And he did not even pull out his money initially, right?
No, when he gets to that first Board of Trustees meeting, he is flanked by John Alvord, who was the outgoing president, and the bank's actuary, George Stickney, and he is basically shown the books and kind of looks in horror at the state of the bank's finances. And Alvord kind of jumps on him and says, well, there is a run on one of our branches, and so we need you to deposit $10,000 of your own money in this bank account. And when I first read that, I was stunned. I was shocked, because I'm thinking about Douglass. He's sitting there with the trustees. At that time, there are 2 other Black trustees. And he is looking around, I imagine, at the white faces and saying, of all of these men, none of whom have my background, minus the African American trustees, but the white men in this room could all gather money to loan, and they're asking me, the former slave, to do it. I just think about that, and it's kind of mind-blowing.
Did he feel overall that he had been used?
I think so. I think he comes to that point fairly quickly and essentially tries to right the ship. And what he does is he writes to try to assure depositors that their money is still safe, and essentially not to pull their money out from the bank. And he ends up depositing $10,000 of his own money in the bank as a show of his confidence.
This went before Congress, I should say, and you got a hold of some of the testimony. Douglass really showed a lot of anger towards John Alvord, who was responsible for actually founding the bank.
Unfortunately, no one was brought on charges, and the bank's depositors, when the bank failed, were left to deal with federal authorities to hopefully, they hoped, get their money that they still had in the bank,
did they ever get money back from those that they loaned to?
Well, there were 5 disbursements. The first disbursement was about 10%, and then it went up to like 10%, 15%, and then 5%. And so there was a very complicated process, though, for depositors to get money. Congress appointed 3 commissioners to figure out how to liquidate the bank's assets and to figure out how to repay the depositors. They had a hard time selling off the bank's assets, the buildings that they had purchased for bank branches across the country. The commissioners themselves were getting paid. And so all of this kind of chipped away at the money that collapsed at the end by 1900. Their accounts, and so nowhere near the full amount of money that they had when the bank collapsed.
Have you charted just how much wealth many of these people might have had if they hadn't lost their money?
It's in perhaps $1 trillion. I mean, it's really hard to say. When the bank failed,
toured widely and kept making solo and small combo albums. He'd do guest appearances with European radio orchestras and big bands and played lots of jazz festivals. He slowed down some of his
just trying to pry up this large slab of concrete to see if the snake's under there. I'm standing as far back as I can, but even here it's mildly terrifying, to be honest. Not the best with snakes. Probably not the best person to be doing this story, but there you go.
And then Subodh holds something up.
Nepali name Todia Sarpa.
Non-venomous snake, keelback. Nepali name Todia Sarpa. This is a non-venomous water snake. We'll release it back near water.
The snake he's pulled out looks like a large grey worm, to be honest. It's absolutely tiny. And he's just letting it crawl all over his hand.
farm workers are frightened. Without Dev's team, this snake would almost certainly be killed, and the farm workers would be at greater risk of being bitten. Dev has trained up a network of almost 40 rescuers spread across more than 300 villages. But these rescues are only one part of what Dev does. Jump in the car and drive over to him. On the way, I asked Dev about safety. In 40 years, has anyone on his team ever been bitten?
We have rescued more than 10,000 snakes throughout the world. There is not even a single bite. That costs time. 42% cases directly go to traditional faith healers and waste their first important hour in snake bite cases. First hour is known as golden hour.
After the workshop, I speak to one of the villagers, a softly spoken middle-aged man called Ram Yadav.
यहाँ पे जो है ना हमने ये सीखा और दूसरा जो हमारे
I learned today that if you delay getting treatment, it can lead to death. Now we have awareness, and we know we should take the patient to hospitals immediately to get treatment. Before, people used to kill the snake first, but now we have understood we should not kill them.
So, Craig Langren, who brought us that report, has since slithered into the studio. Craig, I'm happy that you didn't come with a snake. Usually I know you bring back stuff from your trip.
There's no way you would have caught me with a snake, Myra. I'm absolutely terrified of them. You know, when I was on that first call out and 6 snakes were pulled out of somebody's courtyard, I was hiding right at the back of the crowd, so no need to worry about that.
I mean, the other thing that really struck me really about this project is it's not just about protecting the people, it's actually about rescuing snakes.
Yeah, that's a really important part of it. You know, so the vast majority of the snakes Dev's team rescue are completely harmless, but without that rescue service, they'd be killed out of fear. But snakes play a vital role in the ecosystem. They keep rodent populations down, and that in turn protects crops. So protecting snakes actually protects food supplies too.
And Dev, you know, Nepal's snake man, he speaks so fondly of these creatures. He says that deaths have dropped, which is quite impressive as it is. But these are his numbers, right?
Yes, they are. So Dev told me that he and his team physically visit every snakebite treatment centre and every faith healer across the district. And what they found is that the mortality rate in their areas dropped from, say, around 11% to basically 0. But it's worth pointing out that these aren't peer-reviewed statistics. It's community-collected data, and if you go to the official government figures, they tell a slightly different story. So Dev says that the government records around 200 snakebite deaths a year in Nepal, whereas his data suggests the real number might be closer to 3,000.
That is a massive gap between 200 and 3,000. Why is that the case?
According to Dev, it's because lots of snakebite victims in the region never even make it to hospital in the first place. So they either die at home or at a faith healer's place. And those deaths often aren't recorded. So you end up with this massive gap in the data.
I mean, though, it's clear that the people you spoke to seem to be more aware. The fact that they called Dev instead of killing the snakes says that some change is happening. This is People Fixing the World from the BBC World Service with me, Myra Anubi. Today, we're talking about ways to prevent the risk of snake bites. I've still got our reporter Craig Landgren, and Craig, I'm wondering, avoiding the snake bites is one thing, but there's also a problem after you've been bitten.
Yeah, often in remote places it can just take ages and ages to get people to the hospital. And then even if someone does get to the hospital in time, there's another problem. Often, doctors simply don't know which snake bit the patient, and that makes choosing the right treatment a guessing game at best, which can sometimes be the difference between life and death.
And it's a shame because, as we were saying earlier, death by snake bites in many cases can be prevented. But Craig, we're all about solutions here, and you've come across something else that could help.
Yes, this time in Malaysia. I went to a lab in the capital, Kuala Lumpur, where a researcher thinks he's found a clever way to take the guesswork out of treatment. Here at Monash University, Dr. Shafiq Asnawi is showing me around his lab. It's a cool clinical room with long grey benches, syringes, pipettes, and in a small cabinet to one side, some tiny jars. I head over and pick one up.
You can touch it. Well, now it's safe, yeah.
I really shouldn't shake it around like that.
No, it should be alright. It's tightly kept.
What I'm holding here is dried snake venom. Liquid venom extracted from a snake's fangs that's been freeze-dried into crystals or powder.
This one just looks like a few grains of sand at the bottom of the jar. It looks like little yellowish crystals.
Yep, correct, yeah. But it's still deadly enough. Yeah.
Even in this form, if you're not careful, this stuff can kill you, which is why this cabinet stays locked.
The venom originally would come in liquid form, so it's almost like a modified saliva of a snake itself, right? So we freeze it, we put it inside the freeze dryer, and then it would turn out to be that crystal grains that you see just now.
It's literally killer saliva.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
So that's what Shafiq works with. But the problem he's trying to solve is this. Current antivenoms are species specific. Traditionally, they're made by injecting a small, non-lethal dose of venom into an animal, usually a horse. And over time, the horse develops antibodies against that particular venom. You then extract the blood, purify those antibodies, and that becomes the antivenom. It works, but only against the specific snake you started with. In Malaysia alone, there are more than 30 different venomous species, and across Southeast Asia, there could be hundreds. And when a patient arrives at hospital, they might be unconscious, they might not know which snake bit them, and the doctor has to make a best guess. And if they get it wrong, it's not just that the antivenom doesn't work, it can actually make things worse.
If you got bitten by a pit viper and the doctor administers cobra antivenom, so it might not be effective in neutralizing the toxins, you would have a lot of allergy reactions.
An antivenom that works against lots of different species would mean that doctors don't need to know which snake bit the patient before they start treating them. So how exactly is Shafiq trying to solve this? Well, his approach starts with a simple question. Instead of trying to identify which snake bit the patient, what if you could make an antivenom that targets the things most snake venoms have in common? His team have been breaking down the venom of different species, protein by protein, looking for shared toxic molecules. And the tool they use for that sits in a small, freezing cold room across the corridor from the lab. There are two machines in here. The first is a liquid chromatography machine. It's separating the venom into its individual proteins. The spectrometer is taking those separated proteins and breaking them down even further, turning liquid into gas and sorting the molecules by size and by weight.
It's almost like a fingerprint for that particular molecule itself.
And what they found is that venoms from completely different species share a lot of the same toxic proteins. The same dangerous molecules keep turning up again and again and again in snakes that aren't even closely related. So the idea is if you can identify those shared toxins, you can develop antibodies that target what most venoms have in common, rather than making a separate antivenom for every single species. And the early results are promising. Shafiq's team tested their approach on mice using venom from 6 different snake species, including cobras, king cobras, and pit vipers.
We managed to show very high survival rates across all of our test subjects. Our antibody can actually cover both neurotoxic and the hemotoxic snakes, so basically vipers and cobras. So this is the start of, I call it a universal antibody approach.
So in simple terms, they've made an antibody that works against both main types of deadly snake venom, the kind that attacks your central nervous system and the kind that causes uncontrolled bleeding. Now, it's important to point out that Shafiq's not the only scientist chasing a broader antivenom, but he's confident that his approach could be the one that works.
We want to reduce the guesswork. We want to make sure that if a hospital stocked in an antivenom, it's just one type of antivenom, and hopefully it can be produced at maybe at a cheaper price, so that every hospital, especially those countries that are in need of antivenoms, have access to it.
So Craig, how far away is this from actually being used in a hospital?
Shafiq was pretty upfront about this with me. He thinks it could be years, perhaps even up to a decade. The thing is, there's still a lot of testing to do, clinical trials, and it gets expensive quickly. And it probably won't cover every snake species on every continent on the planet, but it could cover the most common ones in a given region, which would be a massive step forward.
I wonder, are there like snakes whose venom is just too different for this to work on?
Quite possibly, yes. And that's one of the main challenges here. Venom varies a lot, so even the same species of snake can have different venom depending on where it lives, what it eats, what the climate is like in that particular region. So there's a lot more profiling to do, but the early results are encouraging. And I think what's exciting here is that Shafiq's trying to create a blueprint that other researchers in other countries could adapt for their own region too.
The kind of thing we like to hear on the program. Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Myra.
From solutions to snake bites to stopping human trafficking. Next week, we're in Nepal again, and other parts of the world, hearing about many ways that we can make our world a better place. Until then, I'm Myra Anubi, and thanks for listening.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is supported by Workforce by Intuit QuickBooks, integrating payroll, time tracking, human resources, and more in one connected system. More at quickbooks.com/workforce. And by Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses meet their goals. More at bankofamerica.com/gamechangers.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by Topeka Coffee Roasters, a farm-direct coffee company committed to a sustainable and ethical coffee future. From their farms in El Salvador to their cafes in Tulsa. More about their mission and roasted-to-order coffee at topekacoffee.com.
National Public Radio for Northeastern Oklahoma from the University of Tulsa. Public Radio 89.5, KWGS HD1.
This is the BBC World Service, and after the news, the global story. President Trump says the deal between the U.S. and Iran ensures that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. But there are still lots of unanswered questions. What does it actually mean to regulate a sovereign country's nuclear program? How do you check that everyone's actually playing by the rules they've signed up to? Coming up, we'll speak to a former weapons inspector who did just that. Join me, Asma Khalid, in 2 minutes.
BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. Israel and Iran-backed Hezbollah have agreed a ceasefire according to US officials. But despite the deal, Lebanese media reported several Israeli attacks since it came into effect. The driver of one of the trains involved in a collision north of London on Friday night has died. 89 people were injured, 11 of them seriously. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk has called on the presidents of Ukraine and Poland not to stoke diplomatic tensions. It's after Karol Nawrocki stripped Volodymyr Zelensky of Poland's top honor. Mexican authorities are investigating whether two bodies discovered near Mexico City belong to two U.S. citizens who went missing last month. Zafar Padamsi Marawi and Guillermo Jafet Hidalgo had moved to Mexico from Chicago. African and Caribbean nations have demanded formal apologies from countries that benefited from transatlantic slavery, as well as debt relief and compensation. They've also called for the restitution of looted cultural property. Bolivia's president has reached an agreement with the country's main trade union to end more than 6 weeks of protests and blockades to demand his resignation. Rodrigo Paz said dialogue was stronger than force. Football, and in the Men's World Cup, Brazil have defeated Haiti 3-0. Paraguay are currently 1-0 up against Turkey in their Group D encounter. Earlier, Morocco defeated Scotland 1-0 with a goal in the opening minutes of the game. And the United States went through to the second round with a 2-0 win over Australia. Staff at one of London's most famous green spaces have been celebrating after history was made with the hatching of 4 pelican chicks. St James's Park, close to Buckingham Palace, has been home to a colony of the water birds for hundreds of years.
Mr. President, please, just one question for French TV and the Iran deal. Just one question.
You signed the deal?
You signed the MOU?
It's signed, yeah. It's signed. I signed it.
On Wednesday, at the Palace of Versailles, near Paris, President Trump signed a 14-point memorandum of understanding to end the war with Iran. Now, this deal is just a first start. There's now a 60-day clock to reach a final agreement, and officials from the U.S. and Iran are planning to meet soon in Switzerland for initial talks. But at a press conference on Wednesday, President Trump sounded triumphant.
We reached an agreement with Iran that achieves everything we set out to accomplish, everything and much more. Ending the current conflict, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's what it was all about. That was about 99%. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
And while the deal, according to the U.S., lays out that Iran will not procure or develop a nuclear weapon, there are still a lot of unanswered questions about the nuclear issue. And that's before you even consider the deep skepticism from all sides as to whether a deal is realistic. How do you even go about checking that everyone's actually playing by the rules they've signed up to? From the BBC, I'm Asma Khalid in Washington, D.C. And today on The Global Story, we speak with a former weapons inspector about how this all might work.
My name is David Albright. I'm president of the Institute for Science and International Security, and in DC terms, a think tank, and as a result of world events, have spent a lot of the last 20 years looking at the Iran nuclear program.
I just want to say, David, welcome to The Global Story. Thank you for joining us.
Good to be here.
Prior to this world you've had in the think tank world, as you say, here in Washington, D.C., you were also a UN inspector, is that correct, in the 1990s?
Yes, I was involved in the inspections in Iraq, and I think I was the only one picked from a non-governmental organization.
David, before we dive into any of that, actually, I just want to start with, we heard President Trump this week say, again, that the United States would never let Iran have a nuclear weapon. He says that they have agreed to that. That is what the Trump administration is saying. You're a former weapons inspector. When you hear that, what's your reaction?
Oh, my initial reaction is that very happy they have a deal.
Okay.
It's a working document. It's more of a political agreement than a technical agreement. And I think that it does open up a possibility that the Middle East can change fundamentally. But a verification of that is going to be a principal point, and that can be a rough road.
I want to talk about what's going on right now in Iran. and what we might expect in terms of an effort to monitor Iran's nuclear program moving forward. But first, David, you were somebody who monitored this all with the United Nations. Can you just explain to me what nuclear inspectors are for? I imagine a lot of listeners are unfamiliar with this as a job. Do nuclear inspectors inspect all countries?
Most of the inspection effort is centered on the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, ratified in 1970, that commits countries not to build nuclear weapons, and it offers these countries a great deal. Your neighbors won't have nuclear weapons. You can live in a safer environment because they don't have them.
And when did Iran sign the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty?
Yeah, I don't remember the actual date, but it was back in the 70s. It was one of the earlier signers of the Non-Proliferation Treaty.
Okay.
Now, 5 countries had nuclear weapons there, plus Israel, the United States, Russia, Britain, France, and China.
Okay.
And then later, Israel obtained nuclear weapons, and then India and Pakistan also obtained nuclear weapons and have not joined the Non-Proliferation Treaty. So they're called acknowledged nuclear weapon states. So it's evolved into a pretty elaborate system where countries allow these inspectors to come in and look at their nuclear facilities. More importantly, look at their what we call nuclear material, and more importantly, these countries provide a declaration. This is our complete and accurate description of our nuclear program. And one of the jobs of the inspectors is, well, is it really complete, or is something left out?
David, I want to ask you about your work as a weapons inspector. What did your role actually look like?
Well, I'm an analyst.
Okay.
And we're looking to find secret activities. Iraq was vehemently denying it had a nuclear weapons program. Until about 1995, they denied they had a nuclear weapons program. And so you had a situation where the evidence was mounting that they had a nuclear weapons program. They're denying it. Saddam invaded Kuwait. And
yes, that was during the first Bush administration.
And so in 91, there was a ceasefire agreement that imposed on Iran a commitment to get rid of all its nuclear programs. In 95, Iraq decided to come clean and revealed that it did have a nuclear weapons program. It had a very robust gas centrifuge program, much of which we didn't understand. And so they provided a new declaration describing all the work prior to 91. And this was 1,500 pages long, littered with technical detail, procurement, names of companies. There was, and so I was involved in verifying that. And so I went to meet the heads of these programs and also the people in the programs. I would meet the head of the whole program, a man named Jafar. And I went with Brito Ciferrero, the head of the inspection effort, and then met with the head of the centrifuge program and his leading technical deputies.
You'd meet face to face
for hours, all day, for many days.
Where? In a hotel room, or are you meeting in a?
They had a center. They had a center where we would meet. They had sort of a place where they set up to meet the UN, and different groups would come in, and then we would ask them questions, and so the idea was to draw out more information and more documents, and to settle inconsistencies. And there's also inspections. For example, I did go out to the secret centrifuge site in Baghdad, looked at things, and saw how they hid things. It became a kind of a joke among inspectors. You could tell where something secret was because they would pile up like 15, 20 desks and chairs in a big pile over whatever they were trying to hide. And part of the job as an inspector is take the declaration, read it, and then start probing, looking for inconsistencies. Do they answer with something that's contradictory? What's their body language like? How are they acting? And so, for example, when the head of the inspection effort, Ciferrero, had information that the Iraqis were lying about procurement for the centrifuge program, he was interviewing the head of the centrifuge program, and he kept lying for half an hour, 45 minutes. He was sweating, he was nervous. I mean, one of the things that also was irritating is he had 4 or 5 of his technical deputies lying behind him, sitting in chairs, and some of them were rolling their eyes, shaking their heads, and then he just said, "Oh, you're right. I was not telling the truth." And so, but that was a kind of an anomaly in this. Mostly the Iraqis were beat up.
So at a certain point, David, you went back to the U.S. government and and informed the government that Iran, in fact, did not have nuclear weapons. Am I correct in that?
Yes, no, in their declaration, I remember telling Jafar, I mean, he was the head of the whole program, and at the end of sort of a multi-day sets of interviews, I told him I was very encouraged that from their point of view, if they fully revealed things, then sanctions would come off.
And how did you, David Gold, come to that conclusion? I mean, that's a rather profound thing. I mean, you're proving a negative.
And that's right. You keep working at it to build confidence in the absence of undeclared nuclear activities or materials.
Okay.
So it's a complicated process, and that's why it can take long periods of time, particularly if the country's not cooperating.
David, we've been speaking to you about Iraq and your experiences working on that particular country, but let's switch to Iran. Over the last couple of decades, what would you say has been the biggest challenge for inspectors in dealing with Iran?
It's the lack of cooperation. I mean, inspectors will say we need to speak to this person or that person. We need to go to a military site. And Iran would say no. Or there were cases, particularly around 2004, where we had seen in Iran that a facility was being torn down. A large facility in Tehran was being torn down. And the inspectors knew about it. We wrote a study. They took our study at the IA and went to Iran and said, look, we'd like to go in here. Here's this satellite imagery study by my institute. And in this case, Iran said, okay, come in. But they'd already taken down the buildings. They'd scraped off multi-centimeters of dirt. And so nothing was there anymore. And the IA said, well, can you see the level? Because they wanted to do environmental sampling, look for enriched uranium. Iran said no.
My understanding is that Iran does not entirely trust these IAEA inspections. We saw the Iranian government say in 2025 that they view the IAEA as acting politically and that they want to protect their territorial integrity and safety of their scientists.
Well, then we shouldn't have signed a non-proliferation treaty, because under the non-proliferation treaty, the IAEA actually has the right to go anywhere in the country to pursue its mandate. There's modalities, there's rules, but if Iran refuses, and in some cases the IAEA pursue it, they can push it up to the Security Council for action.
David, over say the last 2 decades, how often would you say inspections took place in Iran?
Oh, they take place all the time, because again,
On an ongoing basis, you're saying?
yeah, because they look at the declared material. Iran declares a lot of its nuclear program.
The civilian nuclear program. Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
they always said it's for civilian purposes.
Yeah, but then they don't let you go to certain places. So, but the declared program is inspected all the time. Now, there's rules. There's a comprehensive safeguard agreement negotiated between Iran and the IAEA that sets up the modalities, the procedures of the inspection process. And then this joint comprehensive plan of action added things to that to give the inspectors more access to the declared programs. Iran ported more. They started to allow, for example, camera surveillance of certain manufacturing processes related to gas centrifuge production. And so they're very active in that, and it's all seen as very good. And so that's not where the problem lies, unfortunately. And the conflicts come out over, is the declaration complete? Is there a secret nuclear activities that haven't been declared?
David, I want to understand what your assessment is of visibility into Iran's program before and after the JCPOA. Just to is the shorthand name for the nuclear deal that was agreed upon during the Obama administration. And let me start by saying that the pieces I've read show that a number of official reports and statements from the Union,
call it nuclear dust because it seemed to be nice and everyone understands it better and it's sort of cute and people picked it up.
I've heard him say this again and again.
We're getting the nuclear dust.
The nuclear dust came up with a term which seems to have gone on.
They were enriching material, as they say. I call it nuclear dust. Nuclear dust, sort of dusty.
What exactly is nuclear dust, and why does this administration, and the president in particular, feel that this is so important? Understand, David, what the next steps here might look like. The other month, April 29th, here on our show on The Global Story, we ran an interview that I did with Whitney Sherman, who was, of course, the lead negotiator for the United States on the JCPOA, that Iran nuclear deal under President Obama. And she told us about how long and excruciating it was to make that deal. You know, it took some 18 months of talks. This ceasefire is only for 60 days. I have a lot of questions about how it's possible to hash out a nuclear deal so quickly. If you were part of the negotiations team, what would you want your eyes to agree to?
I think it's what Libby was dealing with and what's being dealt with now is very different.
How so? Yeah.
Well, one is Iran has a large centrifuge program of reactors that were under negotiations, lots of enriched uranium, and the negotiation was about what could stay and what be reduced in operation or dismantled, stored. Here, what you have is a destroyed enrichment program. And the question is Iran going to rebuild it? And is it going to get rid of its enriched uranium? And so what you're negotiating is much simpler. I mean, you may not get an outcome that favors the United States, but still.
You think it could fall in 30 days?
I think yes, it can. If Iran cooperates and they can find a compromise. The United States is confronted with two things now. They have to verify the freeze, which means they're going to look very carefully that tunnel entrances aren't opened, that activities don't happen that reflect an enrichment program in any way, or enriching uranium. And then the negotiations will be on these critical issues of the stocks and how long would an enrichment halt last. Is it 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, forever? So I think the freeze part is actually very important to consider, because that'll be where the United States is going to want to get the IAEA back in and want to know that Iran isn't digging out these tunnels, for example.
So what would you like to see? What would your advice be?
Well, I think Iran should give up enrichment. I don't see any purpose for it at all. It's not economic. It's tied to their nuclear weapons effort at the hip. And they can just give it up and buy enriched uranium like most countries do, what they do too. And then the other part is that they provide assurance they don't have a nuclear weapons program. And that to me is the more important part. I mean, if we had assurance Iran does not have a nuclear weapons program, and there's confidence in that, then if they enrich, it is much less stressful. Maybe Netherlands enriches, Brazil enriches, Germany enriches.
I mean, I imagine Iran would see it as a right, like many countries, to enrich.
True, but it's a lot of rights that are better not to exercise. That it makes more sense to look at it economically and also, Iran isn't violating proliferation treaty. I mean, that's what the IA has been certifying, and that's what was the situation before the JCPOA. The current UN Security Council resolution says Iran cannot enrich uranium. The long term we can talk about, but right now you don't have this right to enrich. So Iran tries to confuse things with these kinds of statements, and I think one is they're not right legally, but more importantly, their enrichment program is just a huge burden on their country's future, and it has been a burden, and it has no economic justification. And so I think it's better if they give it up.
On that note, David, thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
That was David Albright, president of the Washington, D.C.-based Institute for Science and International Security and a former UN weapons inspector. If you appreciated our show today, then I should mention that The Global Story is also available as a podcast. You can find us every weekday by searching for The Global Story wherever you listen to your favorite shows. And that's it from us here at The Global Story. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Judy Blume wrote her last book more than a decade ago. Says she doesn't miss the writing, but she still gets letters.
We need Judy to write a book, Margaret in Menopause. Margaret is always going to be 12. She's not knocking saying, let me out, I'm in menopause.
Our conversation with Judy Blume, Saturday on Weekend Edition from NPR.
Last story of the day's news, Saturday morning from 7 to 10.
Support for Public Radio Tulsa is provided by the Tulsa Zoo, presenting Zoo Lightful, a world of animal lanterns glowing and illuminating a magical 1-mile path through the Tulsa Zoo. Open select evenings through June 28th. More at tulsazoo.org/zoolightful.
National Public Radio from the University of Tulsa. Public Radio 89.5 KWGS HD1 Tulsa.
At 4 o'clock GMT, welcome to the newsroom. I'm Keith Adams. There's a ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel following more hostilities.
There was a ceasefire, but they didn't let us sleep at night. They started striking with artillery and rockets. They didn't respect anyone at all. They began firing at civilians.
The US cuts funding to HIV programs in South Africa over treatment there of the white Afrikaan population.
The problem of HIV/AIDS in South Africa is the largest in any country that we can imagine, or by far.
Of course, we'll have the latest from the World Cup, and remember this theme tune?
Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
We say goodbye to the man who made countless US sitcoms, including Cheers. First, though, a bulletin of world news.
BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. US officials say Israel and the Iranian-backed Lebanese militia Hezbollah have agreed a ceasefire. Despite the deal, Lebanese media reported several Israeli attacks since it came into effect. There are concerns that if violence continues between Israel and Hezbollah, it will undermine the agreement between Iran and the US to end their war. Our chief international correspondent needs to send reports.
This rapid Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire, however fragile, underlines just how much President Trump and his team want their new deal with Iran to hold. It also highlights again how much sway they hold over Israeli policy. Despite a chorus of criticism in Israel and a series of defiant statements from Prime Minister Netanyahu and his ministers, they have had to respond and fast to Washington's wishes. Hezbollah has agreed to hold fire too. Iran also wants this deal to stick.
The Bolivian President Rodrigo Paz has reached an agreement with the main trade union to end more than 6 weeks of protests and blockades to demand his resignation. But it's unlikely to lead to him standing down. Simon Hancock reports.
Demonstrations have strangled Bolivia's economy, pushing food prices further up, leaving hospitals struggling to find critical supplies. Protesters had been infuriated by inflation and fuel supply issues. They then began calling for Mr. Paz's resignation because of anger over his US-backed market reforms. Many demonstrators felt the changes benefited only big business interests. Mr. Paz was only elected 6 months ago, and upon signing the agreement, he declared that dialogue was stronger than force.
The transport union in Britain has confirmed that the person who died when 2 trains collided north of London was one of the drivers. Emergency services at the scene in Bedford reported a major incident. 89 other people were injured, 11 seriously. One passenger told BBC that the impact happened without warning and felt like a bomb going off. Heidi Alexander is the British Transport Secretary.
It is too early to speculate, and that's why it's so important that the inspectors from the Rail Accident Investigation Branch were there very quickly, and they will do a thorough piece of work to establish the cause of this incident and to make sure that those lessons are learned so that no one has to go through an experience like this again when they're using the railways in the UK.
Mexican authorities are investigating whether 2 bodies discovered in Mexico City belong to 2 US citizens who went missing last month. An official has told the French news agency that the bodies were found in a grave in a forest that Fernandez, Marmani and Guillermo Javedel were last seen on the 20th of May. BBC News. Australia's Agriculture Minister Julie Collins says the first mainland case of bird flu caused by the H5N1 strain of the virus has been detected in a remote area of the country's southwest. She said tests have revealed that a migratory seabird, known as a brown skunk, found on a beach about 700 kilometres southeast of Perth, had the virus. African and Caribbean nations have demanded formal apologies from countries that benefited from transatlantic slavery, as well as debt relief and compensation. The demands are part of a 19-point reparations plan endorsed at the end of a 3-day conference in the Ghanaian capital, Accra. Global Affairs correspondent Under Rossen Etiraja has the details.
Conference followed a landmark UN resolution in March that recognized transatlantic slavery as the bravest crime against humanity. It urged African countries to grant the right of return and citizenship pathways for diaspora Africans. Organizers said the aim was to turn
Countless Lebanese people came back to their homes after the US-Iran ceasefire, forced to shelter in a school.
There was a ceasefire, but they didn't let us sleep at night. They started striking with artillery and rockets. They didn't respect anyone at all and began firing at civilians.
They told us there was a ceasefire, so people went back to their towns. Israel then violated that ceasefire, so people went back to the shelters, back to the schools. What are we supposed to do in this situation?
Well, our correspondent Hugo Pacheco sent this report from Lamatia, southern Lebanon. Recent promises of peace in Lebanon have often ended in war. A country under attack also feels under siege, and the violence here seems to have no end. We're here for about 10 minutes, and there's been a wave of very intense Israeli airstrikes with just about another one. You can see plumes of smoke rising from the locations that have been hit. Now, there's also the sound of an Israeli drone flying in the distance. These rescuers watch and wait. So many of their colleagues killed on duty, it's simply too dangerous for them to head out. The bombing was a response to the killing of 4 Israeli soldiers by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. As we leave, we see a motorbike still burning, a risky mission to retrieve yet another body. There's now a new ceasefire, but a lasting truce remains elusive. Earlier this week, we had a rare chance to see the part of Lebanon that is under occupation on a humanitarian convoy of the Order of Malta. Israel says it has no intention of pulling its troops out of Lebanon, saying it wants to create a security zone on the border free of Hezbollah. So the Israeli military presence will not allow to film much of the journey. In Shia villages, there's nothing left. Families will be forced to flee and never be able to come back. Piles of rubble are now a symbol of destroyed buildings, broken promises, and lives. Hugo Pacheco reports from Lebanon, and rescuers in Lamatia.
I roll before sunrise with the tank half full. Heavy loads on the trailer and the schedule pulling hard. Black Peterbuilt 389, glider on the frame. Detroit diesel 60 series, crawling through the lanes. Long white lines, one more state, hands on the wheel. I don't wait, man, you're gonna roll. Man, you roll it slow. Heavy loads, long distances, that's the life I know. Man, you black truck, chrome white. Man, you through the night. I keep a clean logbook and a map on the dash. Coffee gone cold, but the miles keep coming fast. Chrome in the mirror, shining like a blade. Every bridge and back road is a promise that I made. Long white lines, one more state, hands on the wheel. I don't wait, man, do on the road. Man, do roll it slow. Heavy loads, long distances, Peterbilt 389 glider. Chrome on the nose, Detroit diesel 60 series purring. Heavy oversized, long distance all night. Tied down right, I don't do it halfway. Big blow, long road, wide turns, slow roll, cash stacks, up every mile I go. Mando, roll that chrome. Mando, bring it home. Oversized shine money in the bag. Mando, I don't brag, I just drag. State lines blurred when the trailer's tall. Pilot cars out front and I answer the call. Fuel stop, smile, then I'm back on the rail. Black brick gleam, never once to fail. Big low, long roll, wide turns, slow roll, cash stacks, up every mile I go. Mando, roll that chrome. Mando, bring it home. Oversized shine money in the bag. Mando, I don't brag, I just drag. From dusk to dawn, I keep it clean. Heavy work in a heavy machine. Call my name when the load is mean. Man Duke in black like a road-bound cat. Put it down, Mando, roll that chrome. Mando, bring it home. Oversized shine money in the bag. Mando, I don't brag, I just drag.
My name is Mandu, got my name on the door. Black Peterbilt 389, growling down the floor. Detroit 60 series, chrome burning clean. Rolling heavy loads like a money machine. Stacking up miles, stacking up cash. Thumb on the wheel, watch the whole world flash. I don't slow down, I don't lose sleep. Big money coming in and coming deep. Man, rolling, man, don't go me. Black truck, going, make big rolling. Big money, trucking, none of what he trucking. Don't know what to do when it keep on coming. Fuel in the tank and pride in my chest. Every stop I make, I did it best. Chrome on the mirror, chrome on the smile. Paid for the whole run, 1 hard mile at a time. Stacking up miles, stacking up cash. Thumb on the wheel, watch the whole world flash. I don't slow down, I don't lose sleep. Big money coming in and coming deep. Man, dude, rolling, man, rolling. Black truck, blowing, man, keep going. Big money, trucking, big money trucking. Don't know what to do when it keep on coming. Man, dude. Pull up at dawn with the weight all gone. Hit it engine talk while the day's still young.